Our next presentation, we did cut it down just a little bit. This is OneClick Politics, which many of you are familiar with. OneClick Politics, what is grassroots advocacy and why does it matter? Which includes a couple of our own staff members and then also Chaz Clevenger, the CEO of OneClick Politics. Thank you guys for waiting us out a little bit on that. And I don't know exactly which of you three we're going to go first, but I'll just turn it over to you and you guys can go for it. Appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Stuart. This is Jim Vale. I'll go ahead and start. So this is Jim Vale. I'm the National Service Director for the Blind Veterans Association. And like Stuart mentioned, we have our Deputy Director for Policy, Aaron McConnell, and also the CEO of OneClick Politics, Chaz Clevenger. So today we'd like to present, what is grassroots advocacy? What's it look like? Why is it important to you? Does it actually work? We'll also share some of our recent successes, and also we'll share some of our strategies, and then we'll turn it over to Chaz to talk about how OneClick Politics helps. So we're going to share with you the secret sauce of government relations. This is a real force multiplier in government relations. So to start with, what is grassroots advocacy? Aaron?
Thanks, Jim. Well, a little bit about grassroots advocacy. It's one of the best tools that advocacy organizations like BVA have at their disposal. It's a form of citizen-based activism that helps raise public awareness around certain issues. And it's so important for organizations like BVA since we often cover more niche issues that the public may not be as aware of. It helps build that awareness, it helps build education, and essentially we can all be subject matter experts in subjects that public, our representatives, our senators really are not as familiar with. Also, grassroots advocacy really helps personalize an issue to our legislators. It puts a face on an issue, and it really helps demonstrate that the Blind and Veterans Association is not just Jim and I running around on Capitol Hill, but it's really an entire group of active, concerned individuals, which is paramount to our legislative success.
Aaron, what does grassroots advocacy actually look like?
Well, grassroots advocacy can take a lot of different forms. One of the most known forms is really face-to-face meetings. So that can be on Capitol Hill or in district offices in your own hometowns. And you could be meeting with staffers that you guys might even know. It can also take the form of emails, calls, or social media on Facebook and Twitter, which has become really prevalent because it helps create a dialogue between politicians and constituents that really hasn't been there before.
And here's the big question, why is this important?
Well, I know you guys might be asking that a lot, and you might be asking, well, isn't this why we pay you? And it is. And Jim and I are constantly engaging in direct advocacy efforts on Capitol Hill. But there are a lot of reasons why your participation in this advocacy matters. First, legislators make decisions on important pieces of legislation that positively or negatively impact your lives every day. And by getting involved, especially in grassroots advocacy campaigns, it helps ensure that your voice will be heard by your representatives. Additionally, professional lobbyists and government relations teams like Jim and I continuously develop relationships with congressional offices, but you guys as constituents can often make personal connections to offices or staffs that we might sometimes lack. Additionally, personal stories coming from constituents on the importance of this issue can often carry more weight with representatives. And while professional lobbyists can relay the stories, it's not often as powerful as having a constituent telling the representative their story directly.
And it makes a big difference when they hear it from the constituent. And we have lots of examples of that. Next is, Aaron, does grassroots advocacy actually work?
Well, that's the big question. And the answer is really yes, because politicians are constantly concerned with how their their actions will impact their reelection efforts, as we all know. And since you all vote for or against members, your opinion often matters to them more than professional lobbyists. Basically, you all give your elected representatives a performance review every few years. So what you say really does matter to them. And if you take the time to reach out and get involved with their offices and their staff, they will listen.
I have an example back in 2008 when the Army took $5 million that Congress gave them to use towards the I Center of Excellence. They decided to spend it on something else, and BVA needed access to a champion. And at the time, I was a constituent in Washington State, and so Senator Murray's office gives preference to constituents. So I was able to sign up, and I brought in Thompson Perry from our government relations team, and he got to present to the staffer, and then the staffer presented to the senator. And the next day, Senator Murray was on the Senate floor talking for 15 minutes to get that money restored. And so I helped get the foot in the door, and then the government relations team did the rest. And we have other stories. More recently, I remember Don, our executive director, is from Connecticut, and we needed to talk to Senator Blumenthal's office. And so we had Don on the call, and it made all the difference. So it really makes a big difference when you're a constituent to a congressman or senator. Erin, what are some of our recent successes?
Well, just a good example of how OneClick politics has really helped us, and how, grassroots advocacy is very important. In the summer of 2020, we had 3 of our top legislative priorities stuck in House, and that was the standard adapted housing grant legislation, the Ability One contract legislation, and the VA website accessibility legislation, all which were really important to our members. So the government relations team targeted messaging to House leaders and VA committee leaders, and we built all this into a OneClick campaign. And as a result, almost 600 emails were sent out to 42 members of Congress from 42 different states and Puerto Rico. And shortly after that, all 3 of the bills were passed. And your individual advocacy efforts played a huge role in these legislative victories. And these bills have already had a tremendous impact on our members.
Can we show that? Can we show the map?
No, I can't pull the map up, actually.
Pull the map. Okay. We have a map of the United States, and it shows all the states where members actually used OneClick to write in. So, and like Erin mentioned, we also got the renewable auto grant coming up. We got a loan for the Vision Research Project legislation, and also concurrent receipt. Those are our recent campaigns. OneClick makes a big difference, and it's one thing for a government relations staff to contact members of Congress, talk to their staffers, and try to get their support. But we have the subject matter expertise. We know how to write on various issues, but we're not the constituent. So by combining our expertise with the constituents, we're able to put together a really successful team, and it's a win-win, and it's a force multiplier. And as far as OneClick politics, it makes a big difference. The old way of doing things, we'd have to send emails to our members and then have them write a letter to Congress. They don't always know what to write. And so what we do is with OneClick politics, we're able to craft the language, and then with OneClick, our membership's able to take that to the next level. It's kind of like Amazon. Amazon figured out that they can increase their sales by reducing what they call resistance. So when you go online to buy something, if you have to type in your address, you have to type in your credit card. A lot of people figure, this is too difficult. I'm gonna stop this transaction. I'm not gonna go through with this. And a lot of people dropped out of it. So somebody at Amazon figured out, hey, if we come up with a buy it now button, someone's already loaded up the credit card information and their address information. And if they want something, they got the impulsive buy, they go and click the button and the sale goes through. And so they make a lot more sales that way. One-click politics is sort of like buy it now with Amazon. It allows our members to participate in the advocacy process, but you don't have to write the letters to Congress. We do that for you. You can modify it if you want, but it makes it much easier. It reduces that resistance. So all you got to do is push the one-click button, put in your zip code. It already figures out who your members of Congress are. It already populates with the message that Aaron and I wrote, and then you're able to email it to your one representative and 2 senators, and that way it's coming from you, but with our help with the message. So it's a great way to, it's a force multiplier. So and so we can target specific members of Congress for outreach. We can strategically choose times of when to send the messages out. The timing is everything on Capitol Hill. We can provide a clear, concise ask within the messaging. So again, if we say, hey, please contact a member of Congress on this issue, we can craft we can write the message for you. So Aaron, let's see, what are some other ways one-click politics can help?
Well, one of the biggest things is that once the campaign is built, we can send it out over our BVA's entire network. So we can send it out over emails to the members directly. We can put it on the website. We can put it up on social media. And especially once it's out there, you all can share it to your own personal networks, your family, your friends, your communities. And, after you fill it out, of course, then you can share it. And that will just make BVA's network, advocacy network, that much stronger. And it will make the messaging have that much more of an impact.
And we're stronger together. Next, I'd like to introduce Chaz. He's the CEO of OneClick Politics, and he's going to go into more detail about OneClick Politics. Chaz?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time to attend today. I'm very happy to be joining both of my grandfathers were World War II veterans, and one of them was blinded in combat in the Battle of the Lady Gulf on board his aircraft, carrier, and until he passed away several years ago, was a blinded veteran for over 50 years of his life. So this organization means a lot to me, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to work with Jim and Donald and others to help bring advocacy tools to the Blinded Veterans Association. So today I'm just going to go in and show you some of the ways that you can use these tools more effectively. Jim and Aaron kind of showed you some of the examples specific to how BVA has been using our tools to be effective, but I want to dive in and show you a couple of examples of how these tools can be used, more effectively, and show you what some of those things are that Jim and Aaron have access to on the back end of our platform. So Jim, if you or Aaron wouldn't mind making me a host so I can share my screen, I'll pull up some visuals for us today.
I'll do that. Just 1 second, Chaz.
Okay. Thanks, Stuart.
Put it up. I think making you the co-host will do that. If it doesn't, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
work.
It looks like it just went through.
Does that work? Okay, good.
Yeah, so I'll share my screen now. All right, so a couple of the tools that I want to go through are first off the message rotator. So ideally, each of you will take the time to kind of write your own, message. But for those of you who don't have the time or don't feel comfortable writing your own message, this tool is really helpful to Jim and the team, because they can write out different versions of messages for you. And let me speak just a moment of why this is important. I meet with a lot of congressmen and senators, throughout the year, and state lawmakers. And one of the things that they commonly tell me, and their staff tells me, is that, well, Chaz, we get millions of messages from your tool every year from all the hundreds of organizations that use your platform, and we appreciate what you're doing, but we get a lot of the same messages over and over again. We get a lot of form emails, and and while that's helpful, we really want to hear the authentic voice of our constituents. And as you can imagine, we get hundreds of special interest groups sending us messages all year round, and the only way we can kind of distinguish what's important to our constituents is when we feel like they're writing individualized messages to us that are really speaking about their own personal experience. Nothing beats a personalized email. Okay, I'm going to say this again. Nothing beats a personalized email. What this means is that if you really care about the advocacy work BVA is doing, if you're willing to take the time to kind of write out your own message, then that really helps, BVA out a lot, because it highlights why something's important, to you, because each of you live in different parts of the country and are represented by different lawmakers. You live in different federal congressional districts, you're represented by different state reps and state senators, and those lawmakers, they want to hear from you. Most lawmakers do not really take into consideration what non-constituents have to say, because, they're not the people voting them in and out of office. They focused almost exclusively on constituent communications, and those staff members who are looking at these messages, they care about whether you have an address in their district or not. And then they care about whether you have kind of a personal story to tell about why your message affects you personally, and why, as a blinded veteran, you're not getting the healthcare benefits that you were promised through the VA, or why your personal experience or that of a loved one or a friend is causing a detrimental impact to their life. And so facts are important to convey to lawmakers, but so is the raw emotion of your personal experience. Lawmakers definitely pay closer attention when not only are they receiving facts and economic impact data and all of the information that Jim and Donald and Aaron are sharing with them on Capitol Hill, but they also need to hear the raw emotional personal stories, either firsthand from blinded veterans or from their friends and family members, about why these issues are important. So with email, I can't tell you how important it is to really try to personalize those messages. Another tool that we have is our social media channels that can either be set up individually or collectively in a OneClick, hence our name, multi-action tool. What this does is helps amplify your voice, with a single click through multiple channels. So we've all been, on things like Amazon, like Jim mentioned. And when you have to click through too many things, like for instance, back, years ago when I was ordering a pizza online through like Domino's or Papa John's or, some other chain service, I would get annoyed sometimes by how many steps I had to go through. And sometimes I would just, give up and, I would call, or I would just not order pizza that night because I had to go through too many steps. And things have gotten better over the years, and it's pretty easy to use tools like DoorDash and Uber Eats now. And so, that are, a couple of clicks, and it's not any problem. But in the old days, it used to be very difficult. And so with our advocacy tools, we've tried to make it super easy for people to just, click a button and be able to do numerous things at once. So with this multi-action tool example, you can see in this campaign I did for DraftKings earlier this year, we allowed people to do emails and Twitter posts to their lawmakers all at once with a single click. This is valuable because Twitter posts are public in nature, unlike emails. So when you post to your lawmaker's Twitter wall, then guess what? Not only are they and their staff going to see it, but journalists would be able to see it, and so are the general public. And so lawmakers' offices tend to respond more quickly to Twitter posts than they do to email messages. And so the great thing about Twitter posts is that even if just a few of you, choose to take that extra step and, link your Twitter account, to OneClick Politics, then you can make a big impact for BVA by doing a Twitter post, because the Twitter posts are taken more seriously than the emails are by lawmakers. And so just a short message talking about how you want to, support, legislation that, BVA has, sent out to you, about, better, medical benefits, for veterans, then doing it through Twitter is a really great way, to be able to make some noise, not only to lawmakers, but by including like a hashtag for Walter Reed, other major VA hospitals, because even though they're not voting, they're obviously implementing these medical services that are so important to veterans, and by including them, on the messages you're sending to lawmakers, if they get enough of those messages that their hashtags copied on, then they'll start reaching out to their lawmakers too and saying, hi, I'm a nurse or an executive at Walter Reed, and we're concerned because we're seeing a lot of these hashtags on Twitter going out to lawmakers and copying us. And so it's important to remember other constituencies you have beyond lawmakers. Even though the lawmakers are the ones voting or not voting for the legislation we need, there are other influencers, if you will, that are important to include in your outreach. And social media is a great way to get your issues front and center beyond just using email. Another tool that you have at your disposal through OneClick Politics is making phone calls. So what's really nice about this technology is that for those of you who don't want to have to pick up the phone and make a call, this system is easy. So through using either typing in your number or using our jaw readers, like on the widget, you can enter in your phone number, hit the call button, and within a few seconds, you'll receive a call on your landline or mobile device connecting you to a lawmaker's office. Nothing beats a live conversation. We talked about emails and Twitter posts over the last couple of minutes, and those are great. Those are helpful. It's really awesome whenever you take the time to write an email or send a Twitter post to a lawmaker. But phone call is great because it's a two-way dialogue instead of a one-way dialogue like email and Twitter. With a phone call, you can interact with a legislative staff person who can ask you questions, and you can ask them questions, and you can talk back and forth about the issue, and it gives that staffer more to go off of. So at the end of the day, if they're reporting up to the chief of staff or to the lawmaker, they may say, well, Mr. Congressman or woman, we got 1,000 emails today from 30 different interest groups, but you know what, we only had like about 25 calls to our office, and let me go through what some of those calls were. And in fact, I spoke with a blinded veteran today, and he or she took 20 minutes to talk to me about their personal issues, and it was a really great conversation because John explained to me about his service in Operation Enduring Freedom, or John spoke to me about serving in Vietnam, and it sounds like he's really not getting the benefits that he was promised when he signed up to serve our country. And he told me about his specific experience. And so these are the type of rich details that really matter, that are important. You may think that, oh, it's not a big deal if I just send an email or do a phone call. Well, it is a big deal, because, a phone call, you're going to leave that office with a much bigger impression of how important that issue is to you. Because in the priority ranking of things in legislative offices, staffers will put, more emphasis on live phone calls where they got to hear an interactive story from someone. And I'm speaking from somebody who, long before I was the CEO of OneClick Politics, I worked on the Hill for United States Senator Richard Burr, who is the ranking Republican member in the Veterans Affairs Committee. And I did a lot of Veterans Affairs research on veterans coming back from our Operation Enduring and Iraqi, freedom, back over a decade ago, and on the effects of PTSD on, war veterans and, the failure of, the VA to provide proper medical benefits. So this is actually an area that I've worked as a staffer. I was a staff assistant and a Veterans Affairs LA. And as a Veterans Affairs LA, I worked on Veterans Affairs issues for the Senator's office and interacted with other members' offices to talk about these issues, and leveraged in-depth research about these types of issues to be able to brief our chief of staff on the information that was coming into us daily. Senator Burr obviously represented the state of North Carolina, and people from Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg, were sending messages to us quite frequently, and Cherry Hill and other, major bases of operation, for different military units throughout the state. And so I can tell you that the phone calls really mattered. It's important to get on and have a conversation, talk about, your time, as, an officer or an NCO, or as an enlisted man or woman, talk about, what your service meant to you, and, how important it is that not only you, but, your fellow, service men and women are able to get the, very important benefits that they deserve. And taking the time to do that in a phone call, it makes a world of difference to BVA's mission. And so to the extent that you're willing to do a phone call and you're willing to take that courage to have a live conversation, that does a lot. I can't tell you how much it does, both from the standpoint of being a Hill staffer myself over a decade ago, and from interacting with hundreds of organizations where I service these types of campaigns on a day-to-day basis, and talking to chiefs of staff and congressmen and women about this daily. Other tools that we have that are really important are our video tools. So similar to phone calls, taking the time to record a video yourself is another way that you can really bring your voice home in a big way for conversations to lawmakers. Because even though it's not interactive the way a phone call is, it's still very impactful, and it's very easy to do. Anyone who has an iPhone, an Android, a tablet, desktop, or laptop that they purchased within like the last 7 or 8 years, 99% of you are going to have a built-in camera in that device if you purchased it in the last 7 or 8 years. And it's very easy to just activate that camera to record a short video clip that the BVA then has the ability to be able to use as a testimonial or to send to lawmakers' offices. Again, I strongly encourage you, if you're not willing to do a phone call, do a video. These are the two most impactful communications that you can send to lawmakers. Because with the videos, they're hearing you in your own authentic voice. They're seeing you. They're seeing you as a person. Talk to them, and that means something. And it's very impactful versus a nameless, faceless voice in an email, which is still important, but not as impactful as a phone call or a video. Because a video, they're seeing you, they're hearing you talk about, the Richard Starr Act. They're hearing and seeing you talk about your personal story, or your father or grandfather, or your sibling or son or daughter's story, as a blinded veteran. And these stories, matter. I can tell you for other large groups that we work with, DraftKings, National Rifle Association. I mean, these videos that people are sending in from these organizations are helping to create a lot of momentum for campaigns, because when lawmakers and their staff are seeing videos and phone calls, coupled with emails, they take these campaigns more seriously. And at the end of the day, it's important to take a step back and put yourself in the shoes of a lawmaker and their staff. What they care about is getting reelected. And if they're good-natured, they also care about their constituents and about servicing the needs of their constituents. They can't change the whole world. They can't, do things without their fellow congressmen and women voting along with them. But what they can do is they can fight for the people that live in their congressional district. And so that's what they're going to be thinking about on a daily basis. They can't solve world peace. They can't, make Congress start acting on things. But what that one individual congressman or woman can do is they can fight for their district. So you as a constituent, you have to give them the ability to go fight for something. Because if you don't make your voice heard on specific issues, then they're going to fight for the issues for the other organizations that did take time to make their voice heard. You know, they're going to fight for the 50 other groups, the doctors, the pharmacists, the major trade groups and companies. They're going to fight for cannabis or for gambling or whoever the advocates are that sent them messages. And this is why this is so important, because you're not only fighting for blinded veterans in a vacuum. You're fighting to have your voice heard amongst 50 other special interest groups that office got messages from that day, which is why your messages have to be better. They have to be more personalized. They have to be more factual, and they have to be more emotionally compelling if you want to break through, that noise. And so, as someone who lives and breathes this and has, for over 15 years, I can tell you that the best way to make your voice heard, is to take the time to do these extra things like the videos and phone calls. Yes, it's going to take 5 or 10 more minutes out of your day to, take the time to do a good video or to do a phone call. It's not quick in one click like an email is, where it's over and done with in 10 or 15 seconds, but it's extremely impactful. And so that would be my kind of call to action for you, if you will, moving forward, is for those of you who are interested in taking that next step in helping BVA, talk to Aaron and talk to Jim, talk to Donald, let them know that you want to participate in these campaigns so that they can set up some separate phone call and video widgets for you to take action, because I can't tell you how important those are to making an impact on issues. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and hand the reins back over to Jim and Aaron, but I will be participating in the Q&A session next, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has for me.
Thank you, Chaz. Okay, we'll move to the Q&A section. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so Jim, it's Don Overton. Just really quick, Chaz, I want to take this opportunity to thank you and to ensure that our members are aware. Chaz approached us several years ago and offered us these tools on a test basis with no cost involved to ensure accessibility, functionality, and usability. And he's worked with our group ever since. And so that speaks volumes to who he is as an individual and what his team is really all about. They have a passion, as I think came across in his presentation, and he's just been a truly stellar friend to BVA. And earlier this morning, you heard about our upcoming vet tech sessions. OneClick will be part of these sessions, as well as the ambassador sessions. So we will be doing additional trainings to ensure that everybody understands how these tools do work, so that we can use them as effectively as possible. So with that said, if there's any other questions out there, we'll be happy to take them now. Please use the raise hand function. Again, that's *9 for those on a telephone, and those on a computer, you know what your command prompts are. First one up is going to be Eduardo Miranda.
Who's
Go ahead,
currently
sir.
unmuted. You are currently
Hello,
on a
thank
button.
you.
To click
Great
this button,
presentation.
press Control, Option,
For
Space.
starters,
Zoom has a new
congratulations on
window.
all your success with your company, and coming from a staffer to where you are now, it brings you with a lot of insight. And that brings me to my question. I can't send an email to anybody who's on vacation without getting automated responses. Now, with the government having an endless pocket, with your programs, what are they doing to combat all the number of emails that they're
With regard to
receiving?
everyone, thank you, Chase. Your
Since,
work with BVA is invaluable.
obviously
Zoom
everything
has
that
a
I
new
get
window.
back from any government official is an automatic generated response. It's never a true response.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Eduardo, thanks for asking that. So a couple things I'll mention. Number one, as tools like OneClick Politics have become more sophisticated over the years, so has Congress in terms of the way that they screen these communications. Every congressional office uses what's called an aggregating system, These are privately purchased software platforms that contract with Congress to help them manage incoming communications from constituents. Some of the popular ones are called Fireside 21, IQ, IndiGov, and iConstituent. These are private companies that work with Congress to screen their communications. And so these are the systems that are sending out those automated responses, Eduardo, because most congressional offices are not responding directly with a piece of mail to you or to a phone call anymore. The staff assistants are too overwhelmed. They get an average of over 20,000 emails a day, from different special interest groups, around the country, and so that's why I mentioned that. Sadly, it's not just a matter of BVA trying to get their people to send a message. It's about getting your messages to stand out because there's so many other groups on every side of the political aisle. There's unions, there's trade associations, there's everything imaginable under the sun that has an advocacy group attached to it nowadays trying to send in messages. And so one of the things that's helpful about OneClick Politics is that we're one of only about a half a dozen companies that are certified with the CWC program, which stands for Communicating with Congress, which means that all of our communications are whitelisted and always go through to the correct congressional office. So you have 100% confidence that your messages are going through. Unfortunately, we can't control those automated emails that lawmakers send out. However, what you can do is, this is why the phone calls and the videos are so important. Is there's a reason why I was saying that I would like for everyone to strongly consider taking the time to do emails to do phone calls and videos, because the emails are just not as effective as they used to be, particularly if you're just sending a form message. So if you're just sending whatever the message was that was presented to you, it's obviously going to be an excellent message because Jim and Aaron will have taken a lot of time to be very thoughtful about the message. And nothing is wrong with the message except for the fact that if the same message gets sent over and over again without any type of variance or personalization, then it's just going to look like, a bunch of people very quickly went through and sent a message without a lot of thought being put into it. And if staffers receive a message that they feel like not a lot of thought was put into because it's just the same one over and over again, they won't pay as closely attention to it. What they will pay more close attention to is highly personalized messages that clearly somebody took 10 or 15 minutes of their time to write on their own, or they'll take a lot of time and attention to focus on phone calls and videos that they received. So in order to get past that automated response, which is a clear indication that the office isn't taking it super seriously, that's why these additional channels are so important to help break through the noise. So again, you got to think about it from their perspective. If you're in their shoes, and you're getting 20,000 emails a day, then you don't have time to respond to everybody. And so you're just setting up these autoresponders to send out messages because you don't have the time in the day to respond to everyone. The people you are going to take the time to respond to are going to be the ones that took the most time and effort, in their endeavor to communicate with you. And, so congressional offices, like, most other types of offices, just the same way that customer support offices are set up for companies, the squeaky wheel is going to get the oil. If any of you use have to call like your cell phone provider, like Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, all of you know that, it usually takes 45 minutes of waiting on the line to speak to a live person. And that can be very frustrating and annoying, but the people who do, kind of wait it out or, send a live chat and an email along with a phone call, the ones that are going to eventually get the attention and get the problem solved. And it's unfortunately becoming the same way with Congress, is that, you're going to have to be the squeaky wheel and, be willing to, follow up a couple times, do the phone calls and do the videos, because you're not always going to get a response, or definitely not a response that you want from just reaching out once. And that's unfortunate, but that's the reality of the world that we live in. Back, 12 years ago when I was working on the Hill, we still had capacity to do some of that individualized outreach because, we weren't getting that many communications every day. But, you know, in 2021, you know, I was in a meeting with the CWC, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and they said that, you know, over, you know, 260 million emails have been sent to Congress this year from platforms like OneClick Politics. That's a tremendous amount. And, you know, there's no way that offices can handle that volume without these auto responses, which is why cutting through the noise with videos and phone calls is so important.
So that's perfect. So Chaz, we want to thank you, Aaron and Jim. Thank you all for the presentation. We're going to move forward. Now with our other presenters, any additional questions will be forwarded to us and we will forward them to you accordingly. So thank you all so much for joining us today.